every election, the Douglas County Election Commissioner makes sure to test those machines, too, that count the ballots for us. This morning, all 9 machines were fired up to make sure they're working properly. They used test ballots in the process. The machines are made and manufactured by the Omaha-based company Election System and Software. They can count 250 pieces of paper per minute.
These machines are not connected to the internet. They do not even have modems in them. They don't have the ability to be connected to the internet, and they're not connected to each other. They are standalone machines. They simply tabulate the ballots.
State law permits early ballot counting to start today. Right now, they have around 117,000 ballots collected and handed back to them. They're expected to count around that many today, but we will not have the first round of results until 8 p.m. tomorrow night. Of course, that's when the polls close.